It's there! Holy moly, this one's gonna go big!
Hello and welcome back to the channel. So then, a video version of the Hovel. What does that mean? Well, you may or may not be aware that one of the things that I did in the very early days of fruit machine emulation was ran this site here, which was the Web Hovel. It ran from August 2001 to September 2002, and it was kind of a news site, if you will, a news and review site for fruit machine emulation. Also featured me there was actually a section called Rant and Rave. I was a younger, angrier man back then. I'm an old chilled cunt now, but one of the things that I did as part of this site, when I wasn't ranting about things, was I reviewed every single layout that was released for the emulator. To start with, it was MPU 3.4, that became MFME, and JPEMU was released whilst this site was running as well. And one of the things that I made it my business to do was do a little, well, some you can see there, some reviews are shorter than others, but do a write-up for every single layout that was released for the emulators that were around at the time. Little write-up, little review, little talk about the layout, the machine itself. There was actually a review section in there as well. It was keeping up with everything. It was actually quite a time-consuming process. Let's see if we can find the bit where JPEMU was out. Here we are. This is a review for the classic layout of Pinball Wizard that was released back in May 2002, so we had JPEMU available there. As you can see, it was a fairly time-consuming undertaking because there was a lot of stuff being released at the time. And I made it my business to, there's the very first DX for roller coaster there. Made it my business to keep up to date with every single layout that was released for the emulators and do a little write-up on my site. Now, I'm not proposing that I do that in the here and now, like 20 years later, or nearly 20 years later in video form, but what I am thinking of, or I have been thinking of doing for a while, and I finally pulled my finger out and got round to it, is every sort of 3 or 4 weeks, what I'm going to do is just have a look back at the layouts that have been released over at Desert Island Fruits, over at Dad's FME, and over at the Mecca, just in case there's something released there that doesn't get mentioned over at Desert Island Fruit. Between those 3 sites, I'll have a look, like I say, periodically every 3 or 4 weeks, and just pick out a handful of layouts to have a look at, to feature on the channel, have a little yap about the machine, the layout itself, any little interesting stories about it in the emulation sphere, and that kind of thing. Just to be clear, it's not about picking the best layouts necessarily, just the ones that stand out to me as something that I want to play and something I think it's worth having a little chat about. So the ones that I've chosen for this first video, because this will be kind of the proof of concept to see if anyone actually wants to watch them. And what I've got is 4 machines, 4 layouts ready for this video. And to give you an idea, there's a lot of stuff being released. This is just going back through the recent uploads over at Desert Island Fruits. And I want to be absolutely clear that I'm not picking favourites, or I'm not picking best layouts. I'm just picking the ones that stood out to me, that were interesting to me to have a play on, and have maybe got, like I say, some history within the emulation sphere. And my idea will be to do that every 3 or 4 weeks. We'll cover 3, 4, 5 machines, not kind of a full video in depth, like a 30-40 minute video about a single machine, just spending a few minutes on each one, and we can have a look at them and maybe give some visibility to machines that layouts that you may not be aware have been released, or that you wouldn't perhaps have taken a look at yourself, but I think are worth having a go at in the emulator. So it's going to be a sort of series. This is episode 1, and as the months go by, we'll get more episodes out there and cover what's going on in terms of a little bit of fruit machine emulation news and some visibility for some of the layouts that have been released. And if it's a quiet period, there's loads of stuff that's been released over the last sort of 4 and a bit years, that machines or layouts that haven't quite warranted a video of their own, but thinking about it retrospectively could have made it into a video like this. So if it's been a little bit of a quiet time on the live scene, there's plenty of stuff in the archives of stuff that's been released over the last 4 years that could make it into a video. So this is going to be the first one. Let me know if it's something that you would like to see more of. I've got 4 machines ready to go. So that's just the intro. Going forward, I will make a point now of making sure that the videos are time coded. So in the video description, you can just click on the link for if there's a specific machine that's featured in this video that you're interested in, just click on the time code and it will take you straight to it. So with that said, I've got them all ready to go here. So let's get the first one up. And it is this fella here, Red Hot Ibiza. Now, this is, it's almost into the same category as a Maygay, which I covered a couple of weeks ago in a video where we got the sound ROMs after years and years and years. We finally got the sound ROMs for a Maygay and it was made complete in the emulator. Same deal with Red Hot Ibiza. The program ROMs have been around for this one for a long, long time, but we have never had the sound ROMs for it. There's a little bit of confusion. Some people say there has been a classic layout for it, and I don't think there has. And some other people are saying, well, no, there hasn't, because it doesn't run without the sound ROMs. Either way, I'm not aware of there being a classic for it previously, and I would not want to play this machine mute anyway, because one of the selling points of it is a really good sound package. We have talked about it. It's been mentioned a few times over the years, because this was one of the machines that BFM put out in the Smiley cabinet there that had genuine stereo sound. Now, I remember there were a few of these. Crazy Fruits, the original Crazy Fruits did it as well. In the Smiley cabinet here, it actually had 2 speakers. It had one speaker on the left-hand side of the cab, one speaker on the right-hand side of the cab, and it did genuine stereo sound. And if the volume was turned up a little bit on the machine and, you know, you could hear it properly, and obviously you're stood in front of the machine, they use the stereo panning effects very well. Just to be clear, stereo is not 2 speakers. You can have 2 speakers but still have mono sound. There was a little bit of a chat about this. I've got it over at Desert Island Fruits here. This is something else that I'll get around to, is that I think there's a problem in MFME that the stereo panning is the wrong way round. However, one thing that Retrofruit mentioned here, because the subject came up of this fella here, which of course is EastEnders. Now, this is a Maygay machine. I have covered this on the channel before, but just watch what it says in attract mode. So I think it just comes up just at that. I've just as it comes round into attract mode here. Here we are. Just keep an eye on the alpha. So Maygay machines and the BBC. I think we get a proudly presents EastEnders, and it should be the next in stereo sound. There you go. Now, I remember these cabinets had 2 speakers just underneath the buttons there. There was a speaker on the left hand side and a speaker on the right hand side, and I never noticed any kind of stereo sound on them. And what Retrofruit is saying here is, as for Maygay, I have seen an EastEnders claiming to be stereo sound and the 2 speakers were wired together in series. Same for a JPM roller coaster, speakers either side, and as you look at the machine from the front, the left-hand speaker is wired to the right-hand speaker. Now that's fine for JPM roller coaster, because JPM were never making any claims that their machines had stereo sound. However, Maygay here with EastEnders are making, and I just see, there we go, and it just coming around again, in stereo sound. Now, you can't have stereo sound if the 2 speakers are wired together in series. You can, the idea of stereo is you've actually got a discrete signal for the left and right channel, so that they're actually pumping out a different kind of really obvious example of that would be the Amiga, which had 4-channel sound. It put 2 channels out the left and 2 channels out the right. For stereo sound, you have to have a distinct signal left and right. You don't get that if you just got the same sound coming out of 2 speakers. That is just a mono signal being put through 2 speakers. The point with Red Hot Ibiza, and there was a few of these, there was Red Hot Ibiza, there was Crazy Fruits, a Club Firecracker, and quite a few others. BFM used this for a bit, but they didn't stick with it. And certainly from the back end of the Scorpion 4 era and through the Scorpion 5 era, we've actually gone back to mono sound. So obviously there's more cost and complexity involved in producing a genuinely stereo machine. And I guess it's not a little bit like the plasma display on the Big Chief. If it's not reflected in any kind of extra takings in the cash box, then you're not going to stick with it. But There are a handful of them emulated, and there are a handful of them made which are emulated, and we can now play these games in the emulator with stereo sound. Red Hot Ibiza particularly stands out because it's got a really good sound package, one that I was looking forward to playing again. Guy called Mark got onto, I believe it was Dave down at Mr. P's. Mr. P's has got one of these. Dave down at Mr. P's very kindly got the sound ROMs dumped, and then Mark made them available over at Desert Island Fruits, and a guy called Herber knocked together this classic that you can see in front of us here. It does fall afoul of one thing, and I realise we could be getting a little bit into the emulator nerdy stuff here, so by all means skip forward to the gameplay if you want. But it was something that I asked about in September last year, about stereo panning in FME, and basically the channels are reversed. They are, and we'll be able to get this in the video here. The left and right channels are reversed in the emulator, and we went through the history of it. I'll link to this thread in the video description as well. And Reg there had a look into it. There's a video there of Red Hot Ibiza as well. And one of the things that we found about it was that there had previously been, in an earlier version of the emulator, you can see there, Reg found it, that you can choose whether you want the speakers to pan left, right, or right, left, which was in, and it is in version 5.1 of the emulator, as I found there. For whatever reason, Chris took that option out. In the later versions of the emulator, you can see on the right side, all you get there are the options. You can have stereo, mono left or mono right, but on the stereo option, the left and right channels are reversed, and they're the wrong way round. And obviously that's something now that will never be fixed because Chris is no longer with us. Certainly I remember playing, if we go back to the right version of the emulator, I remember playing this back in the day, and the stereo effect worked fine. It's most noticeable when you're on the board. As you move around the board, because the board, you can see there, in fact, if we go back to that, board's a big circle. As you move around the board, you can hear the little sound effects as you move around the board, panning left and right, and they're the wrong way round in the emulator. So when you're on the left-hand side of the board, the noise is coming out the right-hand speaker, and vice versa. So you've just kind of got to put up with that. It is the way it is. Some of the older layouts that you can still load in 5.1, you can add to Crazy Fruits, for example. There's a Crazy Fruits DX that will load in 5.1, and you can use that option in the emulator to flip the channels. So let's just have a go. It's not the most amazing, I'll be absolutely honest with you. It's not the most amazing machine in the world. It's kind of typical BFM of the day, but the thing that makes this one work is the sound package. So we'll have a go. We lost the gamble on the nudge. It's pretty much all of the tracks, to be honest with you. We have got a win there. They're kind of rip-offs of tracks that were popular at the time. This was 1999. This machine came out. We'll go for a win there so we can get the win gamble music. But fair play to BFM. They did write their own sort of music for it rather than directly pinching samples.
Okay, let's do it.
So you can see it coming through on the classic layout pretty well there. You can kind of translate over what you can see to the real machine there. It was a really good looking machine. It plays very fast and slick, and it's got a great sound package as well. They made a lot more effort back in the day, didn't they, with Fruit Machines? You look at the lazy ass shite clones that you get and have been getting for years now. This was when machines had a little bit of originality to them. So let's start going round. There are some half decent features on here, by the way, but one thing that I want to try and get is the skill shot, because you get this nice little sample when you get the skill shot. I mean, look at the effort that's even on the classic here, it's coming through the sound and light show. If you were playing this in a sort of fairly dark and dingy pub, and we had one of these here in a dark and dingy pub, and they actually had some decent volume on it, it was a really good fun machine. Oh, there we go, we got the skill shot, great sample on this too. You will be able to tell, by the way, just the stereo panning's the wrong way around. Just watch as the light goes left to right and it's panning the wrong way. Bit of a shame, my Bandicam should be recording in stereo, so that could come through. Little details like now, I'm going to slow down the skill stop with the BFM button and the sample will change to a slower version of the sample. Just listen. Just little touches like that. And we can actually get a jackpot there, can't we? Because there is a 3 feature, so let's get a jackpot. It's a real joy to play this machine. Oh, hang on a minute, I've got my fingers in the wrong place. I need to stop, don't I? Let's get the jackpot. No, it doesn't like to repeat. It's not a great repeater. It does have a streak in it. But the jackpot does not really like to repeat. I would absolutely recommend this. If you're someone who doesn't, you see a classic, oh, I'm not too fussed about classics, I'll only play it if there's a DX. I mean, hopefully there will be a DX for this. Again, I think the pictures and the flyers that we've got, they're of a standard where I hope that, again, I've got the, what's the old Blackadder quote? The artistic ability of a clutch of blind hedgehogs in a bag or something. That's me, but our resident DX wizards, our artwork wizards, I've seen them lick worse source material than that into a really good DX. But my point is, in lieu of that, do not rule out playing this in the classic version here. I think Herber's done a really good job. There's a couple of fonts that you're going to have to install if you haven't got them already. And they don't seem to be bundled in with the layout either. The emulator will tell you when you load it in what fonts you're missing. I had to do a little goose, certainly on my laptop here. I already had them on my main PC, but not on this laptop. So I had to download a couple of fonts to make the layout look right. But I think he's kind of captured the sort of fun artwork theme of the real machine very nicely. It's obviously a sort of happy, pilled up kind of vibe about the machine, which was all the Ibiza and the club scene and the trance scene at the time. Really good little machine, this. Give it a go. Do yourself a favour. Enjoy the sounds on it. Really good samples, and it also plays, and you'll see it comes through in the emulator fine here. These Scorp 4 machines in the Smiley cab just played a really fast, smooth, slick game. There is some nice little animations on the alpha as well. Let's just have a feature. We'll have one more feature.
Okay, let's do it.
We could maybe collect one of the other features. One of the annoying things oh dear. Ooh, that was a shy of £1 feature there. One of the annoying things as well is you've actually got to fill up the columns. You only start with actually one of the columns with a value, and you've got to fill them up from the bottom there, which is a little bit sly. But it's a great machine. Really fun to play, this one, and I would respectfully recommend, I would say, that you give it a go. Hopefully we'll have a DX one day, but it's fine to play in classic form. And I'm glad that Herber has taken the time as well to put in all those incidental lights there. You can see on the flyer that those lights were around there. You can just about see the white bulbs between the sort of 2 rings in the middle there. And they did a really nice little light show. And you can kind of see that they're synced in with the music as well. It's a great machine. Give it a go. Let's move on to the next one, because part of the point of this was not to dwell for too long on a single machine. And that is this one here, which is Around the Town. This is an old BFM machine. It was originally released on a £6 jackpot. Tommy's here running it on the £8 jackpot ROMs. And the thing that sticks out to me about this machine is because I am not averse to loading in different ROMs to those that a layout is released with. If I think the ROMs are pretty shitty, I'll just load different ROMs. Even if it makes the artwork wrong, I'll load different ROMs into them. A really obvious example that I've used before were the JPM machines Hagar and Popeye are the two that always spring to mind, which were awful on the £8 upgrade. They were £6 machines originally. JPM completely fucked them on the £8 inverted commas upgrade. You lost the £3 repeater. It completely unbalanced the board. And there were some chips which just seemed to flat. There was a speed nudge feature on Hagar, which the £8, or certainly some of the £8 versions, just never seemed to give. They would just block them. Utterly ruined the game. And I kind of had in my head that Round the Town here might go into the same category. When I saw that we were running the £8 ROMs here, I was like, you know what, Tommy, I might be loading the £6 ROMs into this. But I gave it a go on the £8 ROMs. And you know what? This plays a really good game on the £8 ROMs. BFM have done, in fairness, a good job on the upgrade here. And I've kept it running the £8 ROMs. I think it helps that it's a lapper board rather than a start to finish trail where you end up with this value at the end of the trail that gets bigger, you know, in respect to the rest of the feature. You've got a lapper here, which gives them a little bit more sort of leeway in how to redesign the pay table. Your £3 repeater goes to a £4 repeater. That's fine. We don't lose the cash repeater. And we've got an £8 jackpot and all the features. This here, if you land on the pub square at the top, the wool pack, there's a load of like little video, it uses the dot matrix display, like little video games almost that you can play, and they all seem to have been adjusted to take account of the larger jackpot. And one of the other things on this is it doesn't have, like I was mentioning on James Bond a few weeks ago, where there is stuff that's just etched into the glass. Some of it's decaled and some of it isn't. And there's stuff that they can't change because it's etched into the glass. And it just shows that you're obviously playing a £6 jackpot machine that's just had an £8 jackpot or a £10 jackpot grafted onto it. You don't get this with Around the Town. It's Round the Town, not Around the Town. Really good machine. And there's absolutely nothing particularly to say about this one in terms of it's just a really good example of a solid AWP. You're never more than a few quid away. There we are. Never more than a few quid away from a feature, and it can just throw cash repeaters and jackpots at you pretty much out of nowhere. One thing that I always used to find on this, it was true on the £6 jackpot and it was true on the £8 jackpot. If your win there got into the token category, you were basically on the verge of death. Once this gets up over £4, you can pretty much... Oh, now, air hockey. These are the little video game things, but we will take that if we land on it again. Let's just see. Oh, now we're going to get into danger territory. Yep. Now then, it might just kill me outright, because that's the cash, top prize cash. It might kill me, or it give you a taxi ride home. I wouldn't be surprised if I get a 4 and get drunk and disorderly. It's not gonna... Oh, there you are, taxi home, and it'll take 20p off me and give me £3.80. I always, when I played these for real back in the day, as soon as you got up to the kind of the top of the cash values, oh, look at that, it's held as well, after you would just collect. Once you got up to, on the £3 cash, if you would just collect £3 on £4, it was £4, because it would just have you. That wasn't a bad one there, because it still gave me £3.80 of what I had. It's a Scorpion 2 machine, this, by the way, and it's a mix of samples and internal synth sound. You can hear the feature music when you get it, is the synth sound. Your £4 repeater has a sample, but your Jackpot uses synth sound. I think it's one of these where they were kind of a little bit like a Maygay, that they only had a certain amount of space in the ROMs, so you get a mix of samples, and you can hear the feature music in the background. There is, of course, that is just a crappy kind of synth music, but you do get samples for most stuff. We'll take a video game if we can get one. Mystery prize. You can get a trivia thing here. Now, the real machines had a microphone in them, and if you got karaoke night, the idea was that you would sing into the machine. But what everyone seemed to do was they would just scratch the cabinet where the microphone was. Oh no, I think we get... Oh dear, what's he going to do? Oh dear. we're pissed. Game. That's a hard game over, that, I'm afraid. I saw people doing this when they got the karaoke night. They would just like get a key or a coin and just kind of, I think it was around here somewhere, and they just scratch the mic to kind of make like horrible kind of static noise into the mic. Obviously, we've got no concept of that in the emulator, so there's not much that you can do for the karaoke. So there we are. It's a proper sample for the nudge music, and we're going to get this. We've got mixed sevens there, and we'll get a sample on the win as well. Now the thing is, you can exchange at any point. You don't have to gamble once to exchange. So you could make a case for doing that because we're 4 gambles away from the repeater, and it can kill you on 2s and 5s. We're certainly going to exchange there. Spins the reel. Some you can get both blue and red 7s off the nudges. We're only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nudges. That's a possibility. We could get a £4 repeater here. We only need 2 more nudges and we've got the repeater. If we get a 4, we'll get, now roll out the barrel. That's a kind of, I'll just show you what it looks like. It's basically, we should have carried it. See there, you can see there it's offering £3.60. So it has been changed to account, £3.80. It has been changed to account for, it's all just offering, that was all just cash wins there. There were some other machines at the time though, where features like that didn't seem to have, not by BFM but by other manufacturers, where features like that, they were still kind of capped at £3 cash, and it was like they just hadn't bothered to change the parameters of what the feature could offer, whereas BFM did a solid job on this one with altering all the pays to give a really good balanced game. I mean, that's the 2 key takeaways for me and why it's in this video. First of all, it's a great Tommy CDX. It's always a pleasure to play a Tommy CDX. The other thing is, it's a great AWP. Oh, we've got half a chance here. Oh, well, we're going to go for that. Go on. Oh! That was some gambling there, wasn't it? We made it all the way to the £4 repeater. We'll take that. It does repeat. It can repeat. It doesn't repeat that often, but it can. It didn't do that. So yeah, it's just a great old AWP, and it's an example of a £6 jackpot machine being very competently upgraded to an £8 jackpot, to the extent that I have left this running on the £8 ROMs here. There are many, many layouts in my Fruit Machine emulation collection that are running different ROMs to those that were released with the layout, or the layout was released with running, because I think there are ROMs out there that give a better game, and some of the biggest culprits of that are ones where they've got an inverted commas upgraded jackpot. But this gives a genuinely solid, 3 holds will work on the feature. There we are, that'll put me in. This gives a genuinely solid game on the £8 jackpot, and I would recommend leaving it on that. Genuinely, truly entertaining machine, this. The kind of stuff that you can understand. Oh no! Oh, we lost. That's a hard game over, isn't it? The kind of fruit machine that you can understand how people would get addicted to them. If you look at the fucking shite that has passed for fruit machines for many, many years now. Particularly in the £70 and £100 jackpot area, but the rot set in long before that. I find it hard to believe that I would have ever got addicted to those, but though that'll give us cherries. But whereas these, I think it's easy to see that they are genuinely entertaining to play. There's so much going on. We're getting quite... Oh, well, we can't lose there. Well, there we go, we'll have it. Let's see if we can get a repeat on the £4 repeater here. No repeat. We'll just play out for one more feature, but again, this is definitely one that you want to have a go at. Oh, there we are. Hold up, we're just playing quite well here, isn't it? So that's a good example of where we can just exchange straight away. We're on a 4, which is a shite number, but we don't have to risk a gamble. We can exchange straight in. Oh, that'll just be a warning. It says on your way. Yeah, there we are. Oh, that's a bit of a harsh start, isn't it? Oh, that's, I think we lose some cash now. Is that 20p we're going to get? Oh, for fuck's sake. 20p feature, that's crap, isn't it? It's one of those that you can load up. You can absolutely just load this up. 3 holds is a bit weird. It doesn't come in. It just gives you a nudge if you get 3 holds on the symbols. It doesn't guarantee you a win as far as I can tell. But yeah, oh, there we are, straight. There's no need to gamble there. We can just collect that and nudge in the feature. Absolutely one of those that you can just load up and have it. That's just a warning. and play. I can always just load this in, put 10, 20 quid through it, see how it goes. Oh! Is that another 20p feature? Fuck me, that's a bit harsh. Just give it, 10, 15, 20 quid, see what you've got at the end of it. Close the layout down and just load it again at some point in the future. Always playable, always stuff going on. Quite a few different features that you can get at the Woolpack. There were a few of these. Cops and Robbers was the original. They're not clones, but they're all... Oh, dear. Oh, they are having a really bad run here, aren't they? Cops and Robbers was the first one. There was around the town. There was along the prom. There was the Great Train Robbery, which has never been emulated. We haven't got that. I believe we got the program ROMs for the Great Train Robbery, but we haven't got the dot matrix ROMs because those things use their own ROMs for the dot matrix display there. But there were a few of them. They were all sort of much of a muchness in how they played. First one was Cops and Robbers on a 480 Jackpot. These came out on a... Well, not again. After a little bit of a promising start there, it's kicking me arse around, isn't it? And they stuck around as well. I think Cops and Robbers actually made it to a £10 jackpot. So it started life as a 480 machine. Oh, I didn't need to gamble there. And got all the way. I'm sure there was a Cops and Robbers on a £10 jackpot. So they stuck around for a while, these things. Oh, yeah. Toilet, you lose all. Can we get... Oh, there we are. Oh, well, that's a jackpot. On the house is a jackpot, so we'll collect that. And you'll hear the... It's a shame they didn't, for whatever reason, they decided not to do a sample for the jackpot. And there we go, there's our £8 jackpot. We'll have that. One thing about these is they never seem to go on a streak, or what you would call a genuine streak. They would go on little rich runs, but I'm not sure I ever remember getting a full-blown streak out of these things. They really did seem to be quite flat profile. So there we go. That's our £8 jackpot taken out. Would recommend this one. Another one that's where I think these are pretty high profile, these machines. If you're around at the time, you will certainly, if you were playing fruit machines in the early 90s, you will have played these. They were in the pubs everywhere, and they were in arcades as well. And like I say, they stuck around as well. BFM did upgrade them more than once, and they were to be found on site for quite a while. But if you are a younger person who doesn't much like these vintage machines, I would say give this one a go because it's really good fun. But let's move on to the next one. Now, this one here is... there's not a huge amount to say about this one in terms of it is pretty much your standard Impulse. Oh, I missed the on a £25 jackpot as well. The classic here is by We Are City. The classic's been knocking around for a while. I think unreleased, and there were no sound ROMs for it. However, there is a guy over at Desert Island Fruits called Lou, who has been... Oh, there we are, Windspin. Who has been making quite a few ROMs available, including many sound ROMs. Let's just take that. And for some reason, there seem to be quite a lot of Epoch machines where historically we've had program ROMs for them, but no sound ROMs. And you know me with mute machines, I just don't get on with them at all. So who have been hit very hard by this, of course, are Impulse in particular, and also Global and Maygay, other companies that use Epoch, where we've got program ROMs and not sound ROMs. And this is one now that literally just in the last week or so, the sound ROMs have been made available over at Desert Island Fruits by a chap called Lou. I think We Are City. Let's put a note there in the... Well, a note in the notes, a line in the notes, to say thank you to Lou for the sound ROMs. Program ROMs, we don't know. They've been around for ages. I believe there are pictures and flyers of this one, so another one where we'll maybe get a DX in due course. There's not much to say about the machine. I'm just giving a heads up to this one. just to say thank you to Lou, because he has made, this is not the only one, he's made many ROMs available over at Desert Island Fruits that he's helping to bring some of these old machines back to life, and it's nice to see them emulated properly. And the other thing is, Impulse always did a really good sound package. That's the thing, that they were very good on sound. So let's just have a little bit of the feature board music here. Always good sounding machines and far more fun to play. I mean, different people have different tolerances of mute machines. I personally can't be doing with them at all, but it's always good to have the sound ROMs available and have the machine fully emulated. To me, fully emulated means program ROMs and sound ROMs. Yes, a DX is nice to have, it's the icing on the cake, but for me personally, a machine is fully emulated when we've got the program ROMs and the sound ROMs. I am quite happy with classics. I don't consider a DX is essential to say that a machine is fully emulated. For me, it's that combination of program ROMs and sound ROMs. Machine itself is not the best. The thing is, this is a £25 Impulse. There is a... Oh, that should... we'll go for that. I like the Impulses on the £15 Jackpots. Once they got upgraded to 25 quid, many of them got upgraded to 25 quid, such as your Wipeouts and your Grid Runners, and then some of the later ones were native £25 Jackpot machines. They were very harsh on the £25 Jackpot. I wasn't a big fan of them. There is a dedicated video about these Impulses. They kind of all played the same, really. Apart from the ones which had something on them, like Flashback or whatever. They were really, really nice. It's in a foul mood, this thing, isn't it? They weren't the best. I didn't much like them. In the wild, on the £15 Jackpot, I was a big fan of Impulses, but on the £25 Jackpot, they were a tough proposition, and if you caught them wrong, they could take a lot of money off you. So, honestly, not a huge amount to say about the machine. Force it out for the Jackpot. Hope it starts the streak. In the wild, these could do 100 quid. Certainly on some chips, they could do 100 quid. We had some of them here. I still remember to this day getting a straight £100 out of a Grid Runner on a £25 Jackpot, but that they could really take. If you caught them wrong, if you didn't have the time in, if they'd done a streak and maybe been refilled, they could really hold on for the £25 Jackpot in the way that the £15 Jackpot ones couldn't. They were never that expensive to force on a £15 Jackpot in my experience, and if it didn't start the streak, they hadn't done that much damage. On the 25 quid Jackpot, they could properly hold on to it, and if it didn't start the streak, you would find yourself in a bad spot. They could do 50, 75 or 100. Certainly on some chips they had £100 in them, which when you think about it, we're going back to when did the £25 Jackpot come out? 2001, 2002? So we're going back, like 18, 19 years, and these machines had effectively a £100 Jackpot. They could do £100 straight 25 quid plus 3 repeats for 100 quid. It is nice when it happens in the emulator. In fairness, it makes for a fairly dull game because of the blocks on there. Solid block at a £5. I think they block again at 10 or 15, and then eventually they will release the £25 Jackpot, and it'll either streak or it won't. But the key thing here is we've got the sound ROMs. It's another one of these Epochs that is now fully emulated. Thank you to We Are City for the layout, and particularly to that guy Lou over at Desert Island Fruits, who is making the time to this is one example. He's released plenty of ROMs over at Desert Island Fruits, which the layout creators are going over, and they're going to find themselves retrospectively incorporated into layouts or into layouts going forward, which is really good to see. Let's move on to the next one. And it's this fella here. For the first time ever, we have got a DX of Poker Face. Now, for me, I don't know why, but this, to me, really represents the Betcom machines. Now, these things were all over the place, and these were before Betcom were even a thing. And we've been trying to piece together the history of the kind of Betcom machines, the Betcom profile over at Desert Island Fruits. So here is the release thread. The DXs themselves are the work of Tommy C. So as ever, thank you very much to Tommy C for these DXs. Like I say, the first DXs we've ever had for Poker Face. He's been working with, by the way, and this is this kind of... I'll just close that by accident. Let's just reopen that, shall we? There we are. I'll just load that back in. It will just give me time to mention, well, since I've had to reload this back in, there are 2 DXs for this. There's a £35 jackpot, which is what this machine was released on. That's on the Scorpion 4 tech. But fascinatingly, there is a £70 jackpot version of this running on the Epoch tech. I have no fucking idea what the Epoch tech is doing running a £70 jackpot machine. I thought it didn't get out the £25 jackpot era with some machines getting upgraded to a £35 jackpot on Epoch. I am still slightly amazed that there is an Epoch machine running a £70 jackpot. It appears to be a legitimate ROM if you get all the test modes and the back end stuff is there. There's no suggestion that this is any kind of a hack or anything like that. I don't know if they still had some Epoch machines or Epoch hardware knocking about and they thought, let's do a real fucking budget job here on a £70 jackpot machine, but it is running on a £70 jackpot and it is running on Epoch tech. And one thing that I'm showing you here, this is, nothing's gone wrong here. This validating game stays on screen. This is something that the machine does and it takes a good 3 or 4 minutes. So if you want to play this, don't kind of load it up when you're in a hurry. You can literally load this one, not on the £35 jackpot. The Scorpion 4 one just boots up normally. On the £70 jackpot, I'm not kidding, if you're quick about it, you could load this in, go for a shit, and by the time you get back, it'll be about ready to play. You could certainly go and make a cup of tea or something like that, so don't think it's broken. If you load in the £70 jackpot version, seriously, you're talking 3 or 4 minutes before it's booted up. Now, Tommy C has been, he's not put these in the release thread here, but in the work in progress thread, you can see he stitched this together. You can see there, DX is made from multiple low quality images, so they're not the best. But honestly, if you look at what he's managed to finish up with here, he has done a super job. You can see there, like the number 7 is a little bit wonky, that kind of thing. But the source material that he had to work with was shocking, and he's done a cracking job on patching them together into a couple of really nice playable DXs. But one of the things that we were trying to work out is the lineage of these things. So we've got some information here. And I think it's something that's Slasher. Just because I was asking, because these are AC games. Now, of course, we all think about these things as being Betcoms, but Poker Face and, he said, I don't want to close it down again because it'll take, fucking hell, Degsy, you fucking, there we are. See there, it's still validating. These actually say AC games. Now, the running theory at the moment is that AC games Slasher here saying stood for Alistair and Chris, who were the 2 main guys behind the programming of these style of games for a long while, till the Germans bought Betcom out and they fucked off as they didn't like how it was being ran. So AC Games, we believe the way that this goes, and is still validating, by the way, it will work, I promise you, it will kick into life eventually. So AC Games, which I think was which Poker Face was their first release, or one of their, oh there it goes, you see, or one of their first releases. AC Games were formed by ex-Global and Mizuma staff. They made their own company called AC Games, then went on to be Betcom, then Blueprint, and basically they coded this Betcom style of game before Betcom even existed, and they just stuck with it. It seemed to work, the machines seemed to sell, they made money, and they were like, fuck it, we'll just do that forever. And one of the first ones that we think, and this is the first one that I can think of, was Jackpots That Rock and Roll. Now, this was a global machine, also on Epoch Tech, started life as a £25 jackpot machine, got an upgrade to a £35 jackpot. That was when it was still global, so by all accounts, what happens is these 2 guys, potentially called Alistair and Chris, who left Global, some guys from Mizuma, formed their own company called AC Games, seemed to take this code with them, led to machines like Poker Face, and they just never fucking changed it all the way through to the £100 jackpot era. If you have played Jackpots That Rock and Roll on a £25 jackpot, you've kind of played Betcoms that have been really, the very latest Betcoms on a £100 jackpot. Fundamentally, they haven't really changed. But Poker Face here was one of the AC Games machines. Started off as a £35 jackpot, went up to a £70 jackpot. It's the usual story. You're trying to get the named feature on this machine is poker face. You're trying to get that when red to go past. It'll block at a fiver on both 35 quid and 70 quid. It'll block at a fiver all day long until it's happy to go through that. And there are 3 features. I think up the ante, face off and bottle it show that it's getting further. You see all the shots there that are at £5 or below. So it's got plenty of stuff it can do. The wind spins, I think, can just spin in cherries. It can be quite, when it's on its arse, it's a thoroughly depressing machine to play. But there was, if you knew how to play them, and it was fairly straightforward, there was money to be made from them. Indeed, they were so much of a copy and paste that there was a machine called Bank Job that was, I think it was Betcom by then, where when you got the top streak, they hadn't even, or they'd forgotten to change the text. So when you get the poker face streak on this, it says poker face every time it spins in a wind during the streak. On Bank Job, I think on the early chips, they forgot, and it still said poker face on a machine called Bank Job when you collected the Bank Job streak. That just gives you how much of a port the code was from one machine to another. So we'll have a go on it. I mean, you can take your pick, really. Choose your poison. I mean, the thing on the... and it plays fine, the Epoch version. It doesn't play any slower or anything like that. And obviously on the £70 jackpot version, you have the option of going up to £1 a go, which you cannot do. Your 50p, you're limited to 50p on the £35 jackpot machine. There we are. But your £1 play gives you ×2 numbers and also gives you all numbers in view. The sample quality, by the way, is awful. It seems to be a bit of a recurring... I don't know why on Betcoms. It's not that the sound hardware isn't capable of doing good quality samples. The samples always seem to be kind of really scratchy and low quality. It's quite... Just, I'm going to kill that off. Let's get an exchange where we actually win a gamble. And it can really rattle through your money. On £1 a go, they can... There we are. So let's exchange it and see where it's blocking at. There we are. These they're all tri-coloured, by the way. It kind of threw Tommy out a little. I'm going to gamble on that because I can get a move in. No, I can't get a move in. Threw Tommy a little bit because all of the shot squares on the board here are triple lamped, and when you land on one of the zone squares, it's a bit of a way it can mess you around if it's like not wanting to kill you and kind of pretend that you're still getting a bit more of a feature. When you land on a zone, it flicks round and then changes the shot squares there to the colour of the zone that you're actually going to be shooting. Now you see here, it's blasting through on £1 a go. Let's exchange in. So we'll have a gamble on that. Shall we gamble on a 9? I don't think we will gamble on a 9. The fact that we're getting super shots here doesn't... Now, there we go with the zone square, so they can change colour now when that goes around. Back out. We've got an extra life. It doesn't really like you having a life. So watch some of those shot squares will change colour now. Oh, that could take the life off me. I mean, that was a pointless extra life. Literally landed on fuck all of any use between getting the life and losing it. I think we're on a £5 block here. I haven't actually... Oh, God, yeah. So you can see quite clearly here what a depressing machine... It becomes more and more obvious. When they had a £25 jackpot on, jackpots that rock and roll, a £5 block was still pretty bad, but yeah, not the worst thing in the world and wouldn't take that long to come off. It becomes far more apparent on a £35 jackpot, and then becomes pretty awful on a £70 jackpot to have a machine that can block at a fiver. And of course they can still do it on 100 quid as well. Even on the £100 jackpots, your first block on the bloody things is at a fiver, which is thoroughly depressing. So we're not shooting. You can see here this looks like £5 blocks all the way. It can use those zone squares just to drag things out a bit. Oh, fortunately I'm brilliant at skill shots. God, even I can't miss that one. You see here, it's giving us shite shots. We can get an extra life there. That's how they still do it even now. Any machine on this code base hates you having an extra life, it'll just take it off you. And you can see it's hitting all the shite here. Nothing that's going to pay through a fiver. Well, not even, it might be, what, £3 board this? 5 win spins. We're not going to last much longer. It's using the zone square there just to dick us about. There we are, that'll probably be it. And there we go. Shall we have, I mean, for the sake of it, you can see what it's like when it's blocking that fiver. Thoroughly fucking depressing. What I think I'll do is I'll get the poker face turning red, and we'll take the poker face streak out of it. I would recommend, I have actually put a fair bit of cash into the £35 jackpot machine, and honestly I think it plays a better game on the £35 jackpot simply because it doesn't take as long to get ready. But if you're prepared to lump away at it, you can of course go for the, I think they could do a 140 poker face. I don't think they had a 210 in them. And one thing that they can do, in fact, whilst I'm yapping, I may as well put some money in. One thing that they can do, and I had them do this in the wild, is they can do a flat, you can take a red poker face and it'll go flat for 70 quid. But a follow-on board will potentially throw you into the centre. You see those cash values in the centre? And just keep going to 70 quid. And that seems to be, now I always got slightly worried when it did in the real world, and it did that, I would collect the £70 cash pot. However, playing around with it in the emulator, certainly on the £35 jackpot machine, when it did that, that seems to be an invincible board, and if you keep on playing, it will give you a poker face. I'm guessing the same thing applies to the £70 jackpot version, but I always slightly shit him. Plus, I never thought that the second poker face was going to go past anyway. I would just take the £70 cash pot at that point. I don't think we're through a fiver here, are we? Oh, does that guarantee a repeat if it's red? Probably not. I mean, we have got the red poker face there, but I'm not sure if it counts if it doesn't upgrade it off the first gamble. Let's just see where this board... Oh, well, we've got super shots. So red super streak can be really bad, by the way. And there are some crap shots up here. We've got a bonus. It's going to kill me soon, I think. Yeah, there we go. Because we've got an ad again. We've got a bonus. Well, we've lost our life. It's not going to have that, is it? And there we go. So what I'm going to do is going to see if we can get the poker face turning red, and we'll get a poker face streak out of it. Right, it did just offer a normal poker face on the last board, but it hasn't started actually turning it red yet, which is slightly weird. Let's just see if we can win a gamble and get it. No, that is really strange. It can't be far off because it just shot a normal poker face on the last board, but for some reason it still isn't going red. No, there's one for you. It's actually put on the respin reels, it put in all those numbers and actually climbed up to 20 quid. Oh my word! How can how can that not be going red? It's still not going red. And then, so you can see there, obviously it's shoot. I don't want to... My poker face still isn't red. I mean, this is quite interesting, isn't it? Shall we see what it does on this board? Because it seems to be in a slightly weird state here. I mean, this is a £70 exchange. That would say to me that I think the danger here is... I mean, I could potentially try and gamble for all red. And there, so I could turn poker face red. I don't think that's going to go past, though, is it? I suspect this is probably... In fact, let's just see what this adds up to. I would not be entirely surprised if that adds up to 70 quid before it goes out. Let's see, I could be wrong. But I think that might go all the way to 70. And what it'll do, when it adds up to 70, it'll... Oh, no, tell a lie. I'm not sure about this. You know what I would do if I was playing the real thing? It feels a bit gimpy, this. I'm not happy about the way it's done it. And I would be fearful for just getting a normal flat. because it wasn't reading up on. Let's just see if it'll red up. It just there's such horrible bastards when you want to be these things. I still haven't seen it red on a... Let's just see if we can win a gamble first. Look at that, the poke face is still not going red. How bizarre. I'll stick with it and see if it starts going red. There we are. So that's an exchange where it has just readied up. So let's go in. Oh, sorry, I meant to exchange. I could have lost that gamble. Let's just see. On some level, I wouldn't be surprised if it went in for the red poker face on the first one, because we've already had a £70 board. Let's just see. This is the kind of state that it was nice when these machines were on the wild, because you know if you were less than 70 in, you knew you're at least you're at least getting money back, and always the chance to make a decent profit as well. It needs to carry on redding up. That's the thing. So we need the next. Oh, there we are now. This is a bit. The thing with the red, it makes everything red, but it can do this when it's dead as well. It does not mean it can do a hot when it's still in a bad mood. So it doesn't necessarily. Don't get too excited if it does a hot entry like it did there. It can do that when it's in a stinky mood. I used to get 4s and 9s. You may as well just have a punt on in my experience, because it can be a twat for not landing on the super shot squares. Come on, let's just say it needs to win the gamble, and yeah, okay. So we are now. Once it starts going consistently red off the first gamble is generally when you're not a million miles away from it going in. Now that is not the first spin survive. If your very first spin, let's try that. There we are. If your very first spin is to the mystery and it gives you a survive, that is a kind of phantom invisible board. I don't know if that counts as the phantom invisible or not. Shall we go on a 5? This is looking good for a red poke face, isn't it? So obviously we can go on. It can use that note thing just to fuck us about a little bit. Yeah, like that landing on it. I'm not going to gamble on that, but I think we're looking pretty good here. Up the ante, that's one of the top features that it shows out on. So we're probably, I'd feel fairly optimistic about this being the board, I think. Oh, on a 12, yeah. Well, we're there, aren't we? We can't go wrong there. Because we've got a life. Dying! There we go. Let's have a red poker face! I do like the top streaks on these. It's always that wonder about whether or not it goes past. On the £70 jackpot, if it goes past, it's a 140. Obviously, on the £100 jackpot, they can only do a 150. So if it goes past, you're getting 150. But these were, in a way, these are just as good, because if they go past, you're getting a 140. So the £100 jackpot didn't really improve the potential very much. But we can get, if it goes past, obviously we guaranteed our 70. Then we want it to go a That's Your Lot. Not to do a That's Your Lot at 70. And if it goes past, it's a 140. Come on, so it's going to be a cherry. Final spin cherries. Now we need a win. Any win. Oh, and there we are. It's a 140. That is going to do a 140. Guaranteed. That's why you want your feature red, so you don't get. So if you take it when it's normal, it can do some weird shitty value like 80 or 90, something like that, and drop it on its arse. Which is why you want your red. Certainly on the £70 jackpot, guarantees you the 140. So there we go. We'll watch that collector. We'll watch that add into the bank. It is nice when they go past. In a way, I think I preferred these on £70 jackpots to the £100 jackpot. It was satisfying to get the 140, and they seemed easier to get as well on the £70 jackpot. They were still okay on the £100 jackpot, but for me, if you were playing them for profit, if you were playing them to make money, I preferred the 70s. There we are. Knowing that you've got the 140 in the bag is nice. And you do get lots of wins, I'll say that for them. They do it, you know, with relatively small amounts like that. It is a good win series. And that'll be... Don't think they can go past. I do not think they can go past a 140. So we're going to have Cherry Fin, and then that's your lot. Oh, well, we can put a credit in, but it ain't going to go past again. Doing! That's your lot, and there we are, and we'll collect out... So we'll collect out our 140 bank, and of course we've got our coin effect, so it will be, if you just hold it down, it'll dump the whole lot. Very satisfying, always nice to collect on the real things, and they were okay on coins. Of course, the later Betcoms with the note mechs were notoriously unreliable and would fuck people left, right and centre. I got stiffed by a couple of them when I was over in the UK, that when they started paying out notes, people will lose. They would, every time they errored, you'd lose a tenner out the bank as well. People came to hate the note mechs on these, but I don't think these could pay out notes. They paid out, they could take notes, but they paid out coins. But always nice to drop 140 out of them like that. So there you go. They are the 4 machines that I wanted to cover in this video. It's I'm going to call this something Video Hovel episode 1 or whatever. If there's any kind of interest in these kinds of videos, I will do more going forward. Similar format, we'll pick a handful of machines of stuff that's been released, have a little play around with them, a little chat about it, and if there's any sort of interesting trivia on Desert Island Fruits or the other forums, that kind of thing. One thing I didn't say about Poker Face, by the way, is that Matty N released in fact, I think have we got in the notes, have we got a thank you? No, I didn't see it there, but in fact, I'll just drag that in. There we are. It was Matty N actually released a classic of Poker Face, the Epoch £70 one, so we should just give a shout out to Matty there for the classic. So it has been emulated on the £70 jackpot for a little while. I think I featured it in the it was in view in the original video that I did about the Betcoms, but this is the first time that we have had a DX for Poker Face, and I don't know what it is. There's something about this machine that just epitomizes the Betcoms. There are a few of them, and I remember seeing them in, I think, 2010. I was over in the UK on a training course down at Reading at Microsoft HQ, and obviously I was out at the pubs of Reading of an evening, and there were a few of these around. I remember playing these in UK pubs on a £35 jackpot. So man, it was the first time I'd seen them. There were none of them over here at the time. So maybe it was something to do with that. It was a brand new machine. I'd never seen the likes of it before, the format before. So maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know. But for me, this is pure Betcom, even though it was made by a company called AC Games. So there you go. That's the first episode of the Video Hovel. We'll get more done in due course if anyone wants to watch them. But thank you very much for watching this video. I do hope you have enjoyed it, and I'll catch up with you next time. But for now, it is goodbye.